Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Dudes and Beer podcast, coming to you on the road from Houston, Texas.
Beautiful Houston, Texas.
Beautiful. At least the view we have tonight of the roof of the Toyota Center all lit up, out in the window, my hometown, see the medical center off in the distance.
Boy, is it red.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
As red as our session lager,
session
premium lager cans.
That's right. I could not find hops and grain here.
Thank you.
Hops
and grain is a fantastic beer, though.
It is. I love it. I love it. They are one of our sponsors. I smuggled a 12-pack with me the other night whenever I came into town on an undisclosed airline that I travel with. But I finished off that 12-pack Tuesday night whenever we did Dudes and Beer. So,
fantastic. So session it is for tonight.
Session it is. And welcome our guest, Mr. DJ Lance.
Welcome.
How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, sir. How are you?
Just a little delirious, you know.
Yeah, it's been a long week.
It's been a long week. We just put in a huge, crazy week. DJ is one of the guys that I work with on the road here and there, doing AV, and we just always have great conversations. And finally, we get to sit down and do a Dudes and Beer.
I think this has been about 3 years in the making.
Yeah, close to it, because you were one of the first people that was like, "I'd like to come on that show. That'd be cool."
I like to talk.
Yeah, I like talking.
I like the sound of my voice.
I like talking. So yeah, I mean, we were talking about some crazy shit earlier today. We've been talking about it over the last few days, just like technology society, the way that things are going, the quickening, as it's called, the rampant pace in which things develop, and whether or not we as a society are like even ready to deal with this stuff. You know what I mean? Like a prime example would be the topic that Steven and I talked about the other night, the fact that Google is now making AI for Pentagon drones.
But which is scarier? Google doing AI for Pentagon drones or Google owning Boston Dynamics?
I think they're both pretty scary.
Because they're kind of one and the same. And if you look at,
I think AI with drones is really the scariest part, despite who's doing it.
I feel like that was a Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of look at it like this. You have a company that is all about pushing boundaries, and then they're basically going to acquire technologies. Because how do companies maintain themselves? They improve their numbers YOY, right?
Yeah.
How do you keep your job at those companies? Improving your numbers YOY. So it makes sense that they need to expand into other verticals.
Yeah.
So Google's acquisition of Boston Dynamics really isn't that outside, considering the former head of DARPA was, what was her position at Google that she took? I honestly can't remember.
I want to say it was something.
She was a C-suite. I don't remember if it was
I want to say it was like CFO or something
or
like that.
OO or something. Yeah. I don't remember exactly. But then big surprise, here comes one of the DARPA darlings, Boston Dynamics. Well, let's scoop them up because this is an industry I understand.
Yeah.
If you look at it from a business perspective, it's not that crazy. However, when you take something as scary as the recent release of, I don't remember the product, it's the now miniaturized evolution of the big dog.
Yep.
That are now communicating in Swarm, and put the data backbone of Google behind it, you kind of have Skynet.
Yeah.
TM.
Yeah.
But now, so they're going to build AI for the Pentagon. Well, here's the thing. Is that a separate piece? Or is that something that's connected to the Google data stream? That, to me, kind of defines the danger. If it's something that's, we're talking machine learning, but then with this entire data acquisition backbone behind it, well, that's something else. That's something that can not just think for itself, but it can aggregate data on a massive scale.
Exactly.
Then you put that reasoning, if you will, into Pentagon drones. Well, now I'm afraid. But if you have a drone that you're building an AI for that can decide whether that is an insurgent or a child, Well, I don't mind that so much because there's been instances where the drones that we have now that are being remotely piloted from the other side of the world via satellite, you got guys that are making decisions on grainy ass night vision video.
Yeah.
And they don't always get it right. How many times have we heard counter reports? We
hear about
entire
wedding parties,
or you have the U.S. media saying that this was a precision drone strike and we took out these Al Qaeda heads, and then you got Al Jazeera or the BBC coming back and reporting, that was a daycare center and children were massacred.
Yeah. It was, and I mean a lot of that goes back to previous wars, previous incursions of the United States abroad. If you go back and look at, if you remember the baby milk factories and stuff like that during the first Gulf War, where it was like, they destroyed a milk factory. No,
are there babies in the baby milk factory?
Yeah.
Is it milk made from babies? I mean, what exactly were we talking about?
It was like a formula factory.
Okay, but like in wartime, they're not going to spread those resources over to troops.
Yeah.
I mean, publicly damned, they feed the troops first.
Yeah. And, I guess to me, just studying philosophy and ethics the way that I did for years, it's it really does come down to the point for me of like I said in the episode with Steven, the Jurassic Park quote. You were so busy trying to find out if you could, you didn't stop to think if you should.
But, that's been science throughout our entire history.
Sure.
I mean, take logic, reason, and ethics out of it, and you get Nazi scientists, doing unbelievably inhumane surgical experiments on pregnant Jewish women.
Sure.
Which the really sick, bizarre other side of that is that's why now we know so much about obstetrics and gynecology.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can take that even farther back into, don't quote me on the exact period, but when artists were trying to do very detailed drawings of human anatomy, and they were going and paying gravediggers for cadavers.
Oh, yeah.
So that they could basically peel the skin back and draw, in their sketchbooks from all these artists of all the muscular structure.
Da Vinci is the biggest one, and he actually, that didn't come out until close to about 100 years ago or so, that those manuscripts existed.
Oh, but people knew. They just knew the public couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And
he did it in secret because otherwise he would have been excommunicated.
He did do
by
it in
the
secret,
church.
but the second he died, those things came out, and there were people that withheld that. Excuse me, beer.
It's all right.
There's people that withheld that information because they thought it was in the public interest to hold it back.
Yeah.
And that brings up a whole other thing.
Whole cadre of topics.
Who gets to decide what the public can handle and what the public can't handle? And that's a huge problem for me because at some point we have to decide if we are a grown society or not, and if we are able to make educated decisions based on the things that are going on in our world.
Yeah.
So like in relation to this AI, holy crap, can we handle this? Are we as a society prepared to have machines thinking for us? Well, are the machines ever always actually thinking for us, or are they just able to better react to the things we ask them to do?
Sure.
What's the goal? Is the goal to be, like I mentioned, Star Trek TM, about having these drones that are to take over this planet and basically act as guards and hunters and take out everything indiscriminately?
Yeah.
Or are we talking about when I, push the button and say kill, are we talking about, like, to quote Daniel Craig in, one of the last Bond movies, knowing when not to pull the trigger?
Yeah.
When I say shoot and you go, maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah.
If
in a minute.
That is something we're talking about, then I'm willing to do that.
Well, and it's interesting, though, because the UN has put forth measures against automated weapons, or autonomous weapons, not automated, but autonomous weapons. And just the fact of, there needs to be a lot more research before stuff like that's allowed on the battlefield. And they already have them in Russia. You can go online and watch videos of their 2-pistol shooting robot that shoots pretty damn well. And it does it on its own. It's not connected to some wires or something like that. And it's wild to see stuff like that. And the fact that it's a reality, and you absolutely have to understand that that would be the route. That's the inevitable route. Like, why? Number one, I don't think that's going to lead us to a point of less war. I really don't. I think, if anything, it's going to lead us to a point of greater conflagration, because at that point, it ain't people.
Well, and exactly.
It ain't people out in the field.
And that's the point that a lot of people are making, is we're trying to make war safer. Now,
how about we try stopping
How about
war?
we try to have less war than to make war safer?
Yeah.
Because making war safer by
Yeah.
taking the people out of the field...
We're trying to make it safer to have HIV.
Yeah, so...
How about we try stopping HIV?
Then why don't we do this? Why don't we create a new Olympic sport of robot wars and have every country bring their war machine...
BattleBots!
And BattleBots.
BattleBots in the Olympics!
And we fight in a closed arena
Yeah.
in a different country every year.
Yeah.
And we have these... and then whoever, wins gets Syria.
Robotic Kumite.
Whoever wins gets wherever. I mean, if let's say we do North Korea versus South Korea. Whoever wins, that's whose government takes over the peninsula. Let's unite and call it a day.
Yeah.
And so, that brings up my favorite headline of the day. President Donald Trump agreeing to meet with Kim Jong-un.
Yes!
Now, here's my question.
Go ahead.
Who's getting kidnapped out of that meeting? I'm assuming now. Granted,
I want to know who's going to get. I want to know who's going to get poloniumed at that meeting.
Right. So, I've been working all day, and I literally was standing in line at America's favorite coffee shop today, and looking up at the TV and seeing this headline. Donald Trump agrees to meet with Kim Jong-un. And I'm like, okay, there's only one place in the world that can happen, because I know
North Korea, he ain't
none
leaving
of the Kims are leaving the country, so that has to happen at the Freedom House.
Although the oldest sister, did just leave to go to South Korea.
He's going to meet with him directly.
I know that.
That was the headline. The only place that's going to happen is in the Freedom House.
Yeah.
That straddles the line of the DMZ. Yep. So, who's getting pulled across whose border, and are they going to grab Donald and suck him across?
Is it going to be like
or are we going to grab Mr. Kim and try to drag him south?
Okay, Kim, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to have a thumb war. Grab my hand.
Kim, you lost. You're fired.
You're
Trademark
fired.
Because I don't want to get sued by Donald Trump.
Fired.
So that's a trademark phrase. I just want to be very clear about that.
That is correct.
We have no. I believe I'm legally allowed to do that.
You are allowed to use it in parody. No affiliation with Donald Trump.
So you can bleep this later, and everyone knows what movie I'm talking about. Somebody's honey dicking somebody here.
Yeah.
Somebody's getting honey dicked, and I know who thinks they're doing the honey dicking, but I really feel like that person's getting honey dicked. And I'll let you all read between the lines.
Well, and it's been interesting over the Olympics. Number one, it's the first time that, like I said, an UN has left North Korea.
And thank you, Mike Pence, for opening up dialogue when you had the chance.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for turning a head over a shoulder and maybe giving a wave.
Granted, we're at odds with them, but sir, we are not at war.
That's right. Absolutely.
We need more friends than enemies right now. Let's think this through.
And it's just the fact that the Olympics in and of itself has started a peace talk between North and South Korea, which is, good God, that's 50 years.
There's something weird with the timing, though. So
I'm with you.
You have the North Koreans, miniaturizing nuclear warheads and perfecting an ICBM that can hit Hawaii. Words are hard. They can hit Hawaii or California.
Sure.
And then, a month later, hey, we're going to come to the Olympics and let's fly the unification flag.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks after that, hey, we're ready to talk.
Yeah.
Now, did the North Koreans just want to get themselves in a place where they felt like, hey, we're nuclear, so now we're on an even footing with the U.S., and now we feel like we can come to the negotiation table as peers? Or do they really feel like they can show South Korea how awful we are and convince them to unify under the rule of the communist rule of the North?
Yeah, and that's one take.
The Kims.
The Kims, sorry. the take that I really see with it is the same thing that I told people with George W. Bush. Was the fact that people were afraid of him because he wasn't scared to just go over and kick somebody's ass. Like, Kim Jong-un was like, yeah, we made this new missile. And Trump's like, I don't care. We have like 1,000 of them. Like, we would wipe you off the face of the earth, and I got a button.
And mine works.
And mine works. Yeah, but at the same time, it's one of those, like, is it that, or is it the fact of, hey, yeah, you want to fucking, chest out and chest bump some shit? Let's fucking chest bump some shit.
But
and then on top of that, Putin comes out and says, we now have an ICBM that, like, will defeat any missile defense system.
Yeah,
will bypass it.
Yeah, well, they all forget about Reagan.
Yeah.
And you guys can Google that and figure out what I'm talking about.
Yeah, how about those DU Sabos?
Just saying. That is not a joke.
Nope.
There's enough floating around out there that I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So, but here's the Korean problem. So, if you go to war with North Korea, you cannot have a nuclear option.
No.
Because of the proximity to China and South Korea.
Japan.
Even if take Japan out of it for a second, because there's a body of water in between.
That's true, yeah.
Prevailing winds, blah, blah, blah. So, just talking about that one confined little area, and really, you see Japan's not that big, they would be affected. But, we've done that one before. But if
Twice.
Like, hey,
Twice.
I know 3 days ago was bad enough, but hey, guess what? So, we're going to make sure you understand.
Sure you don't want to sign?
Right. So,
sign.
You can't go nuclear against North Korea.
No.
Period.
No.
The world would not stand, I don't want to say world governments, but, the other people on this planet that we have to deal with would not stand for that.
No.
And the second you do that, you're going to affect the Chinese population, and China's going to come down on us, and guess what? They got more people than us.
Oh, God.
Just saying. And then when China
they have a standing army of 1 million people.
China gets drug into it. We'll look at the neighbors. India gets involved now, and then you
India, Pakistan,
and now you've pulled Russia straight into the conflict.
Yep.
You can't. You have to go surgical against the North. Well, when you go surgical against the North, you have the exact same problem. You drag China into it. You do an offensive against China. Well, here comes Russia.
Yeah.
And we're back in the same place. We are at this apocalyptic World War III.
Yeah.
When, honest to God, if everyone could stop for a second and go, and maybe this is me being an idealist here.
Go for it, man. Somebody's got to be.
Sitting on a rock, whirling around a big ball of burning helium. The planet's not getting any bigger.
Yeah.
There's, everybody's already kind of gone to their corners and pissed on their trees, and it's like, this is where we are.
Yeah.
At what point can we not stop and go, cooperation is in the best interest for everybody?
Yeah.
I may not agree with how you live 5,000 miles away, but that doesn't really affect me where I'm at.
Because you're 5,000 miles away.
So why don't I let you be you?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be me.
Well,
and let's be cooperative. Let's find what do you do good, what do I do good, and let's trade that shit and let's work together.
I was discussing that with somebody the other day because, of course, one of the big things that came out with South Korea and the Olympics and everything else is of course, the eating of dog meat in South Korea. And
I mean, Dachshunds are tasty.
Well, and that's the thing, is that's what people think. But the fact is, like, it is a breed of dog that is bred for that purpose and has been bred for that purpose for hundreds of years. They don't go to, like, it's not like you're going to the pound like you're going to the fucking butcher shop. And it's like, yeah, I feel like a schnauzer today. If I could get one of those and one of those, that'd be great. Let's make some sausage out of that one. Like, it doesn't work that way.
I mean, and
but
a quarter of the world eats monkey brains.
Many people in the world eat horse. People in the Middle East eat camel.
Camel hump, I hear, is tasty, fatty and tasty.
Yep.
So we eat cows and pigs.
It's
and
the
that
fact
offends
of
another part of the world.
It's the fact of if you're willing to come in and. That's just a part of their culture. Mm-hmm. Like I said, like nobody's going to the neighbor's backyard and taking their dog and then inviting the neighbor over to a barbecue tomorrow. It's not how it works. So, is it worth us making...
So what you're saying is it's an agribusiness.
Well, it's the fact of...
They breed an animal for slaughter. That's an agribusiness.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No different than us breeding pigs or chickens.
Cows or chickens.
Yeah.
And, marmosets and all the things we like to eat.
Exactly.
Wait, pause for the cause. There we go.
Yeah.
Good. Moving on.
So it's the fact of, to see that in the news, it's like, number one, we're guests in that country.
How many times do you get invited over to someone's house and you walk in and go, man, that's some ugly ass carpet and I hate your drapes?
Yeah, exactly.
Just saying.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this locally sourced food? No. And hey, don't eat the dog. You don't eat dog, don't eat dog. Well, don't take part in that cultural experience. But you can't judge a culture by something like that.
Well, look here in America. We have... Okay, so let's take the big three: Muslim, Christians, and Jews.
Sure.
You can drive down a street in, let's say, Dallas, Texas, and you can find 3 different grocery stores.
Yep.
And you can find whatever you want. So you can find halal, you can find kosher. Why is that a problem?
Yeah.
Why is it a problem that, oh no, they don't sell bacon, or oh my God, they do sell bacon?
Yeah.
I mean... Why is this a problem?
Don't tell the rabbi I'm selling bacon.
Right. I mean, why is this a problem? So if we can do that on one, let's say 1 mile stretch of road in the middle of Texas, why does it matter globally?
Exactly.
You do you, I do me. You eat dog, I don't. I don't care.
Yeah.
I practice your martial arts, but I don't eat dog.
Well, and that's exactly like what the framing of America was supposed to be about. Was a laissez-faire concept, not just in economics, but in life.
But then the puritanical, ethos took over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, in God we trust became, white Protestants.
Yeah.
And that's what that meant. That's what it had to be. And everybody wants a praying president, but only to the right God. Yeah. Does that really matter?
No.
Because I'll tell you, as someone who was brought up as Southern Baptist and or Methodist, depending on what year of my life we're talking about, and
sure.
what my parents decided to take me to. My mother was a culture Catholic.
Okay.
But we went to Baptist and Methodist churches, and
sure.
then
good services.
Later in my life, I learned a lot about Islam, which I'd never been exposed to in my life, and
some beautiful teachings in
Islam. There are beautiful teachings in both. And here's the thing. A moral compass is a moral compass.
Exactly.
And the unfortunate truth of the world is the crazies make the news. The ISIS people, this apocalypse cult, which you can look up and figure out, read about what they're really about. I don't want to get into that right now. But, this
Why not?
This cult, which is really what I feel like they're a sect.
Well, and explain that to people.
Okay.
What you mean, kids? I mean, go into it.
Well, okay, so my elementary understanding of from what I've read and what I've studied is that they believe that they created a caliphate, a state,
yes.
which is the acronym of ISIS. It's in Syria and Iraq. They create this state, they occupy this state, and it expands all the way until the army sacks Turkey. Then a foreign power, which in today's climate sure does look like the United States. Comes in and decimates the force down to 5,000. When we're down to the remaining 5,000, Jesus Christ comes back. This is speaking of the second coming of Christ, and leads that 5,000 in the apocalypse and in ending the world. Now they are as much in my mind, and this is my opinion. They are as much a representative of the teachings of Islam as much as the Branch Davidians were a representative of my Baptist faith.
Okay, very good analogy.
And the unfortunate truth is the crazies make the news.
Yeah,
sensationalism, and is what sells. And
it's
here's the
sexy.
thing: say what you will, CNN. Say what you will, CSNBC. Say what you will, Fox News. You're all in the same category.
Yeah,
you're there to sell ad dollars.
Yep.
You're there to make money. You're there for ratings.
Absolutely.
Long time ago, you abandoned all of us in your mission to bring us the news. And so now you have left us in this place where we can't just turn on news outlets and hope to get the truth.
Well,
we have to read between the lines. We have to go hunting. And I don't mind doing the legwork anymore, but there was a time where there was journalistic integrity. And I don't feel like that so much exists anymore.
No.
There's networks that squash news stories because it harms their advertisers.
Yep.
Or it makes one of the friends of the owner of a newspaper look bad.
Or whatever political alignments they happen to have.
There are.
And what's interesting, it's awesome that you bring that up because I talk about it all the time on the show. But look it up, people. Back in the days of Edward R. Murrow, things like that, when the news first started, because you have to remember, it was private airwaves, okay? But the government said this is a great means of communication. So what we need is something where, and when news first started, for the edict of it, there was no commercialization allowed. It was an hour of straight news. Mm-hmm. There were not commercial breaks. Mm-hmm. There were no sponsors of the news.
There was no making of ad dollars.
You weren't going to see a Prilosec commercial in the middle of the news. It was the news. And at the same time, they also, like you said, the journalistic integrity was the fact that they didn't have hearsay and conjecture. They gave you fact. And here's what's happening. Like, base your opinion on the fact here. It's up to you to decide.
Because there were no loyalties.
Yeah.
Now there's these loyalties. So we're beholden to this or we're beholden to this ideology. Well, truth, ladies and gentlemen, is not an ideology. Truth is truth.
That's right. Capital T.
Capital T.
Capital
truth.
T. Universal.
Truth is truth.
Yeah.
If this happened, then that's what you have to say. Think about it like this, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a family member that's doing something that's harmful to you, to themselves, or to others, at some point, you're going to sit that person down and you're going to have a little bit of an intervention. Oh my God, how much we love watching people get interventions on TV. Why can't we do that to ourselves in mass?
Yeah.
Why do we have to sugarcoat it? Why do we have to spoon feed? This is our thought. This is that thought. Commentary has ruined truth.
Yes.
Commentary is not truth. Commentary is opinion. Oh
That's
my
right.
God, we need
it's
to
hearsay,
think
conjecture.
It's hearsay and conjecture. So you turn on CNN or Fox News, or CSNBC, or your local affiliate du jour, your CBS affiliate. They're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
They bring on 4 different people who are paid on-air consultants to give their opinion.
Yeah.
And now suddenly, oh my God, on CNN I saw this person, this analyst say this. Well, that's an analyzation. That's that person's opinion. Okay,
that's their interpretation of the data.
That's their interpretation of data. But on top of that or underneath it actually, is a layer of truth. This is the facts of what happened. I would much rather, as an American, I would much rather the news networks give me the truth, the fact.
That's it.
This A, B, C happened. Now that we've told you A, B, and C happened, now we can come in and fill the next 30 minutes with commentary. But oh, by the way,
A, B,
and C happened.
Hey, don't forget this.
Don't forget this.
And at the end of it,
come back. By the way, you just heard 30 minutes of masturbation on air. Now don't forget A, B, and C happened.
Exactly.
So much of this, and I'm sorry, folks, for being vulgar, but oh my God, it's on-air masturbation.
It is. It's not. We're an 18 and up audience, so
it's
curse all you fucking
on-air masturbation.
It is.
This is my ego. Okay, I'm going to absorb A, B, and C. And by the way, we didn't mention A, B, and C. By the way, we took A, B, and C and condensed it into a 4-word headline that we're going to shock you with, and now I'm going to give you my opinion. Oh, don't worry about A, B, and C. I read A, B, and C. Now let me tell you what I think about it.
Now let me tell you what A, B, and C said.
Through the lens of my personal loyalties and affiliations.
And that's quite honestly one of the reasons why dudesandbeer.com has the knowledge vault. because we talk about a lot of things like Nikola Tesla and all
you know
these
what?
all these
Chris,
hidden government
say
programs.
this right now.
Go ahead.
I am not an expert.
No, me neither.
I'm not an expert in any of this. I am
Nope.
unfortunately a slave to the media like the rest of us. Because
Absolutely.
you know what? I, in my life...
Because it's the only source of the
it's the
data.
only well, it is and it isn't. Because here's the thing. Could I spend 12 hours of my day digging through declassified, Pentagon files? Could I watch every single live stream from the White House? Could I have C-SPAN on my house 24 hours a day live from the Senate floor?
I'm here to tell you it's an
Could I watch
addiction.
this? You
It's an
can't.
addiction.
But here's the thing. You
can't.
can't. Much like doing cocaine, there's
Yeah.
never enough. And there's so much going on
Yeah.
there, you can never actually absorb it all.
Well, and that's, I think, part of the issue and part of the plan in and of itself is the fact of the constant barrage. And it's an issue that we face. Denzel Washington said it really well right up around the election time because they were saying, oh, we heard that you were voting for Trump. And he's like, who told you that? Oh, we heard it from the source.
What
You
source?
should really check your sources, because like you guys have a total responsibility. Like you can't just be saying something like that.
But they don't feel like they have a total responsibility. All they feel
Yeah.
like they have to do is quote somebody that said something.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, I can make a wild proclamation right now.
Yeah.
Saturn's no longer a planet. You heard me say it here, folks.
It's true.
And now,
It's true.
Now I can be quoted as a source, which, by the way, that's total bullshit.
Planets can only be terrestrial. Gas giants cannot be planets, folks. They can't be. They're a gas giant. They aren't a planet. They're almost a sun. Not quite.
Whose son?
Ah.
But the point of that is, so here
I'm with you.
But that's exactly the point. Now I can be quoted as a source.
That's right.
Hey,
Wait a minute. That's what I do.
Right. So here's a great case in point here, right? So I have this running theory, and this is my own personal belief. Here's my analyst view, if you will. Statisticians rule our world.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because they can literally make numbers mean anything they want.
Yep.
I learned this lesson when I sat in a meeting of a group who was defining the outlines of research for a highly contagious sexually transmitted disease. And I'm being very careful about how I speak here. And one study that they were looking into was stated basically that you could be quoted in this study as an expert if you had 20 patient years of experience in dealing with this highly contagious sexually transmitted disease. Which meant, because patient years, so that means one patient who had this disease for 20 years of treatment.
Yeah.
2 patients
Who had it
this
for
disease
10.
for 10 years. Oh,
20 that had it for 1.
40 patients in a county hospital that you've worked in as a resident for 6 months.
That all had half a year.
You could be
yeah.
quoted as an expert, as a subject
Wow.
matter expert in
Wow.
this.
Wow.
So think about that. A baby doc who has been out of medical school for 6 months, who took a job at a county teaching hospital, or let's say a VA medical center, which is most VAs are teaching hospitals.
Yep.
That's how they get the staff they get.
That's right.
And they could be quoted as a subject matter expert in a research document that would then define the development of treatments and medications moving forward.
Wow. Wow. And that is just so utterly slipshod.
But because they wrote it that way, because some statistician figured out, we can slip this in this way, and we can get the baby docs and slip them a nice honorarium, which is a nice way of saying money to say what we want.
Sure.
They can, basically skew the data any way they want.
Well, and, we're both AV ops. I do a lot of breakout work. I love breakouts, quite honestly. Like, it's my fave.
Wow.
To sit in them and opt them, because you get to hear some
You're
really
a sick
wild
puppy.
presentations.
Yes, you do.
But I was working a show one time, and it was the National Utility Commissioners Convention, and there's like a couple of utility commissioners.
You're braver than I am. I'm under too many NDAs to
from
be that specific.
well, yeah, I didn't say where it was, when it was. Doesn't
Fair
matter.
enough.
So there we are. All these utility commissioners, we've heard all this stuff about different forms of electricity. There's even somebody that came in and gave a speech on the impact of industrial marijuana growth on the electric grid, things like that. You know, it's fascinating stuff, good stuff. The big star of the show was the CTO for Tesla. And it was about a month after they'd announced the advent of their wall technology.
I'm not familiar with that.
The Tesla wall is basically like a rechargeable wall battery for your home.
Nice. So this is a competing product to the University of Texas photovoltaic house paint.
Yes. Yeah. And, it would be a married product.
So this would be the storage medium.
Exactly.
Or something that generates
exactly.
Like that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a new way to power your home, everything else. So he's going through his presentation, and, you know, he's talking about this solar study that they did, marrying it in with a half-acre solar grid or I forget what it was. Maybe it was a half-acre, forget, but solar grid in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And that by what they showed, it was a third the cost of fossil fuels by the study that they did. And,
but we like burning dinosaurs.
I love burning dinosaurs. It smells good.
Barming?
Burning. Yeah. So there I am.
Visiting Barningham.
There I am, thinking to myself, like, wait a minute. That just sounds like some skewed data. Mm-hmm. Number one, you did a solar study near the equator. Mm-hmm. And on an island where you're going to have a constant breeze, it's a whole lot harder for those things to get, like, covered with pollen, you know, to get dirty, things like that. Not to mention the fact that you did it on an island.
Stack the deck in your favor.
They don't make gasoline or oil on Hawaii. It's shipped in.
Which is why things are so unbelievably expensive there.
Exactly.
Because it's an island.
So it's like, nobody's going to raise a hand and ask this question? You know, like...
They just accept the data at face value.
And
you have to stop. Ladies and gentlemen,
it was mind-numbing to see that.
You have to stop. When you read data, researchers suggest that, or it's been found in a study that, you have to stop and look at how the data was aggregated. How was that data collected and sorted?
How was it acquired?
You know, there's been a lot of science in the last 15 years that has been gone back and been debunked because people are fudging the numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, statisticians rule the world.
Good God. I mean, Sanjay Gupta came out and, like, totally reversed his position on medical marijuana.
Yes, he did.
And came out and said, when I was head of the World Health Organization and put these things out saying that it was invaluable, it did nothing, you know, people were just trying to get high. It was because I had no idea that it was coming from people who had active interest in it not happening.
Which is
once I saw
paper, timber, and textiles.
Once I saw independent studies of other labs from around the world, the data was totally different, and I cannot ignore that.
180 degrees different. So here's the thing. When you are presented in any given argument with two sides that are 180 degrees diametrically opposed, guess what? Somebody's lying.
Yes. That's the only way it can be.
When we're looking at the same problem and the data is 180 degrees out of alignment. Now, if it's a little shifted this way, that way, okay, well, maybe there's a better way. Maybe someone's more right. When it's 180 degrees, somebody's lying.
Yeah. There's something's rotten.
There's not always a black and white answer. Our world is not black and white.
No, and science is not black and white.
Science is not black and white because we don't understand half the things we stumble over.
Well, and, you know, like a prime example is, I challenge you people, go ask a doctor how an SRI works, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. How it works. Not if it works, but how it works. Because, like, I'm on Zoloft. I'm not afraid to admit it. You know, like, I'm on it for anxiety. Stuff like that. Oh, You knew me when I wasn't on it.
I've known you for a while, sir. Good
you know,
God, you need it.
I am a totally different, calm, cool cucumber with it.
And I'm sure I could use a few milligrams of Prozac in my life, but you know what? I just suck it up.
That's it. And, the thing is, we may have the exact same symptoms, exhibit the exact same symptoms, have the same body type, everything else. Works for me, doesn't work for you. They have no idea why.
Yeah.
They have no idea why. They don't even know how it works. They just know it works.
I have a really funny, and I don't want to call this a theory because that pisses people off.
Of course not.
But
it's a hypothesis.
It's no. It's kind of it's more of an anecdotal
hypothesis
joke. Hypothesis
comes before theory.
This is more of an anecdotal joke. What's the difference between a doctor, a medical doctor, an internist, and an auto mechanic? What's the difference between the two?
I don't know.
An auto mechanic is actually able of completely and totally understanding the piece of equipment they're trying to repair.
Absolutely.
And the doctors are still just guessing.
There's still quite a bit of
high percentage of it.
Yeah.
We have our toe dipped in
Yeah.
genetics. We understand very little. We've decoded the genome. Do we really understand how they interact?
Well, and not just that, but you have to consider anything like that, especially playing with genes, doing that kind of stuff. You're looking at a 20-year long. You got to look at a generational study.
No, sir. You don't have to look at a generational study. You have to look at 100 generational studies.
Yeah,
that's the problem. So when they do genetic studies on, everything in the lab works from the micro to the macro.
Yes.
So fruit flies, because they have such a short lifespan, and even animals like crayfish are used in research studies because they can literally view generations of them in a few months.
Yeah.
Because much like natural selection, playing with genome is a long game.
Yeah.
You're playing the long game. This isn't Gattaca. This isn't, dial in how you want your baby to be.
Yeah.
It's
not super soldier serum.
We're debating it now, but we are so far away from that.
Yeah.
Being able to design your baby, and people jump at that, I don't know, we're doing this and the other. But here's the thing. We legislatively, scientifically, medically, ethically, we are so far away from that.
Barbara Streisand had her dogs cloned.
Well, that's a dog.
Still.
I mean...
Like, you remember what happened to Dolly the sheep, right?
I'm talking about designer people.
When does she wake up in her bed with her dogs inside out next to her?
I'm just saying. Or you have the Seth MacFarlane writing about clones that disintegrate after a couple of days. I mean, it's just it's kind of a fanciful thing. One of our problems is we have so much, and I love sci-fi fantasy movies. Don't get me wrong, I'm not poo-pooing any of that, but now we've put these ideas in our head that these things are possible. Why? Because I can turn on Netflix TM and see them. Because I can turn on the TV and see them. So, oh my God, they must be real. They must be close. I mean, this is going back to War of the Worlds, where we almost caused a nationwide panic because somebody nailed a fucking radio broadcast.
No, almost. And told people it's a radio broadcast.
It's a radio broadcast. We're just kidding.
Yeah.
JK. The first time those words were ever spoken.
Welcome to a radio dramatization of H.G. Wells' work, The War of the Worlds.
Yeah, well, guess what? There was no...
Welcome back.
There was no DVR and pause and rewind on that. If you turned your radio on 2 seconds after that announcement was made, I think I'd be getting in my bunker too.
But if you're riveted when they come back from the Malto Meal commercial...
They didn't go to commercial breaks during War of the Worlds. That's the thing.
They did.
It
was an uninterrupted broadcast.
It was a performance art piece from start to finish. And
ladies and gentlemen, if you've never had the opportunity, go. You can find it on YouTube. Go check it out.
And then after
you
you listen to it, stop and say, what if I turned on CNN tomorrow and saw this?
Well, and that's just it. That's where we're at right now. I wrote an article like the new jumping to conclusions.
You don't write. You can barely read.
That's true. Most of my stuff is I have the internet read articles, and then I have Dragon software trademark.
TM. That's going to be a new thing on your show. I just started it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
I have Dragon software. Like aggregate these things and make an article.
Dragon naturally speaking.
Yeah. But no, the Jumping to Conclusions blog, the first one talked about like all these things that were in the news where it's like, are they just trying to set up for something, or is it like that they're trying to put doubt into people's mind about the emergency management system? Because it was like, hey everybody, there's a ballistic missile coming to Hawaii. Oops, sorry, no there isn't. Hey everybody, there is an earthquake in Alaska. There may be a tsunami hitting the West Coast. Here's how long it'll take to reach you.
And when does that into Boy Cried Wolf's territory?
Oops, sorry, not happening. Hey everybody, there's a tsunami hitting the East Coast and the Gulf Coast. Oops, sorry, not happening.
JK.
All within a 3-week period.
So, okay, so I'm going to submit this to you.
Submitted for my approval.
Similar technologically driven events happening in rapid succession means what? What does that feel like? What causes rapid malfunctions in technologies, communication technology specifically, in rapid succession?
Worms crawl in, the worms crawl out.
That's called hacking.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You saw the picture on the news about with the gentleman with the terminal in Hawaii to input that. His nice little pose next to his computer monitor with his password on a Post-it note.
Yeah.
On his monitor.
Yeah.
Here's your sign.
Yeah.
TM.
Thank you.
TM. But
thank you, Mr. Ingval.
Thank you, Mr. Ingval. I love you, bub.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
But that's what it is. And if ever there was a time to use that, that was it.
That's the thing. You cannot.
Took a picture of it.
Number one, you cannot tell me that one motherfucker. Well, once again, it's an explicit show. One motherfucker can type something in and hit enter, and that's what goes out to millions of people. It doesn't work that way.
Do you know
it
why?
can't work that way.
Do you know why they do it that way?
That way?
You know why they do it that way?
Why?
Speedy communication.
Okay, sure. Okay, whatever, dude. Like, I would go get the job and be fired in a day because I just have fun. Fuck it.
Warning, tsunami of beer coming to my room.
Warning, everybody. I'm on the prowl. Look out, ladies. Here I come. Send.
Warning, lock up your daughters. Here I come.
Yeah.
Send.
Lock up your wife.
Lock up your sons, for that matter. Here I come. Send.
Lock up your wife. Lock up your kids.
Hide the kids.
Hide the kids.
TM. Love the guys that auto-tune the news. Big shout out to auto-tune the news.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I that's my first official shout out.
You know,
ever.
I need to try to get them on, dude. I need to try to contact them and get them on. That'd be dope.
You know what, guys? You're smart and hyper talented.
Absolutely.
Shout out from me to you.
You see the trend and you go with it and just push it to the extreme.
Hide your kids, hide your wife. I mean, enter. Sent to the
quite
people.
Honestly, we see a lot of Wi-Fi codes on shows and stuff.
We do.
Like, that's probably the best one I've ever seen. Is
hide your kids, hide your wife.
No, hide your kids, hide your Wi-Fi.
That's even better.
It was classy. It was very nerdy, classy. I was like, all right, kudos to you, sir.
Oh my God,
that's better than FBI surveillance van.
Yes. You know, for the longest time, at the last place that I lived, there was somebody down the block that I could see that was FBI surveillance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's one in every neighborhood.
Yeah, there is.
And that doesn't mean somebody used it. There's an FBI surveillance van in every neighborhood. Just in case you didn't know that.
You ever notice that kids don't go to the ice cream man?
Wow. You just started a whole thing there.
I could rabbit hole on that.
That are going to just completely
hypothesists. Please. We're conspiracy hypothesists. It takes a lot of steps to get to a theory scientifically, my friend.
Not everyone shares your view. That may be how you've rationalized and broken it down for yourself, but you know...
Here's the thing, though.
That there are the isms out there.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
And to quote Ferris Bueller,
that's right. I don't believe in isms. I just believe in me.
There it is.
I'm also not the walrus, though.
No,
and I still have to bum rides from people.
Was Paul the walrus? Is that how that broke out? I know he's the one that made it.
Yeah. But
Sir Paul.
Oh my God! I just lost it.
Squirrel. Squirrel.
Yep.
We call that the Etch-a-Sketch effect.
Yes.
When you turn your head too fast and everything just falls out.
But yeah, for me, it's the. I can't even remember what we were just talking
Well,
about.
then let's do a new topic then.
Okay.
Mark.
No.
For any of you that aren't in the industry, that's
That
me
means
laying down
edit.
an edit point.
Edit here.
Cut it, Mark.
But with all the stuff going on in technology, all the stuff going on in social media, stuff like that,
Okay.
I can't see how. Number one, I can see how people live in a state of cognitive dissonance.
Okay.
Utterly.
Well, they're
Utterly.
just you're speaking of tsunamis. I mean, they're just under the wave of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's like people are like, oh, well, don't worry. You know, Kim Jong's nuclear missile can't even hit the coast. It's like it doesn't have to hit the coast. It would almost be better if it didn't make landfall.
You mean
If
it
it-
did make landfall?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No. If it exploded over land,
That's the worst.
it would have
So you're saying it was better if it did make landfall?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Because
more
a
dangerous.
nuclear weapon, in the atmosphere is an EMP down to the earth.
That's
plus
right.
Raining.
There goes not just raining dirty bomb material all the way down,
for
but-
hundreds or thousands of miles.
but welcome to the 18th century, everybody within blast radius.
Yep.
And you think people are crazy now. Wait till they ain't got their fucking Amazon Prime. Wait till they ain't got their Netflix.
We can't get together and admit as a society, and I'm just speaking about America, in the United States of America, we can't even get together as a society and say killing people is wrong.
Yeah.
You realize that. We debate.
It's tough.
We debate murders and killings every single day about if it's right or wrong. And I'm not speaking of war.
I wouldn't say right or wrong,
I'm
but
living-
justified, unjustified.
No. How's that any different than right or wrong? Justified is right, unjustified is wrong. How is that any different?
I guess
and
that's true.
here's the thing. Being a former theologian,
Sure.
you've heard of the skyline concept of sin, right?
Yeah.
People look at a skyline and they see a topography, and that's
Sure.
how people lay out sin. Some things are
Yeah.
worse than others. God looks at, a skyline of a city straight down, and if sin is buildings, then all sins are the same. All sin is flat.
Yeah.
So justified, unjustified is right and wrong. You can't
Sure.
separate the two.
Sure.
Again, that's my opinion.
It's a charcoal shade of gray.
It is. It really is. I mean,
How gray are we
that's
talking?
actually not- yeah,
Charcoal.
Exactly how gray are we talking about? We're talking about midnight.
Charcoal.
I'm just saying. So every day in this country, we debate killings, mass shootings, and all of this. What's right? What's wrong? Who's to blame? Oh, well, you can't blame the shooter. Oh my God, here's people trying to blame the victims. You have different interest groups, and I'm not going to name names here because I'm not taking sides. You have different interest groups, that are arguing this is right, this
Yeah.
is wrong. Oh, gun control is stupid. No, we need gun control.
Yeah.
Oh, look at Switzerland, who has so many guns and they have no violence. Yeah, well, the entire male population has been in the military and trained.
Yeah.
So,
And once they're in the military and trained, they're legally obliged to own a gun.
they actually, what they do, I actually just read a whole thing on this the other day. When they exit service, they have the option to buy all their issued weapons.
Absolutely.
So
and
a
most
lot-
of them do.
A lot of the firearms that exist
Yeah.
and I'm Switzerland, that's correct. I'm naming
Yes.
the right country.
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
Lord knows I've had
I've
a
been
couple.
there numerous times. I love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to admit to you right now on air that I have been drinking for 8 hours.
Hells yeah.
And I have just had a 6-pack of beer put down in front of me as my portion. So, things are going to get slurry, and my draw is going to come
Going
out.
back to where I was, though, with the conspiracy theory concept.
Oh, no. Hypothesis. if you will,
Hypothesis.
sir. Your words, not
Here's
mine.
why I say hypothesis. Because people have this dirty concept of conspiracy theory,
Because you're all crazy.
which is horrifying. Horrifying. Number one, conspiracies exist. And this is my argument.
Well, hang on a second here. I
Okay.
would just like to point out
Go ahead.
that that conspiracies exist, but I want to make a blanket statement here.
How do we know? Make your blanket statement.
This is for my side of the table.
Go ahead.
Which is kind of funny because you can't see, but Mr. Chris and I are literally at odds across the table.
That's right.
There's a microphone in the middle.
And one I can't flip over because it's granite. And I've worked 100 hours this week. I'm not flipping a granite table.
Baby, get me going. I'll flip some granite. So, whether you believe this or not, there are those, and let's just speak about the United States of America, for instance, because, for Chris and myself, I don't know if you've ever lived overseas, but...
Yes, I have.
Okay, you have. So you have a little more perspective than me. I, ladies and gentlemen, have never been off the continent. I've done Mexico, U.S., and Canada, all over. I've been all over the United States.
It's been a semester in Rome.
Well, there you go. So you've been to Italy, Ciabella. So, in our country, we entrust people with powers and knowledge that we as a public have decided that we don't want to know about. We live in the blissful ignorance, and the people that we elect...
High five on Mike for that.
Boom. We elect these officials...
With the understanding...
No, hang on. I'm not even going there yet. Who then... We put our trust in them to select other people, who then will select other people, who then will select other people, who will deal with these large things for us. One of their charges is to decide what we as a society en masse, as the lay people, if you will, can handle.
Yeah.
Without causing civil unrest.
Sure.
So because of this, ladies and gentlemen, we do not live in a pure democracy. We live in a republic. Republic for which we stand, one nation under God, indivisible. Republic. You
go Knights of Columbus for getting under God in there.
You pledge that you are part of a republic.
That's right. And that's a beautiful difference.
And to quote Mr. Chris, ladies and gentlemen, I challenge you to look up the difference between the two.
That's right. It's a huge difference. And number one, democracy is a form of voting. It is not a form of government. It's a form of filling out a ballot.
But it's a way of directing your government.
Yes.
It is a way of directing. But I'm going to reel back for a second because I'm not even getting into that. What I'm trying to get to is
we were going to conspiracy.
Yeah, but I'm going to let you go on that in a second. But what I want to say is there's a lot of information that we will never know. Those are those things that our government deems national security, top secret, whatever. And I'm sure a billion other designations that we've never heard of because, let's be honest, the thing they tell us is not the whole story, including how they run things. So there is a powers that be, our own version of the Kim dynasty, if you will. The same people have always been in power in our country.
Yeah.
And every now and again, somebody else gets brought up and they have two choices. They either follow along with the status quo or they get ostracized. And we've seen those people fall away.
Yeah.
And you can name names. You can decide who I'm talking about here. But the thing is,
never name names.
There are things. Words are hard, ladies and gentlemen. There are things that go on in our country and in our world that we will never know about.
Yeah.
We, as the royal we, as the public en masse. There are things that we will never know about because we've entrusted those people to protect us from those things. And you know what? The honest to God truth is, and I'm not naming my political allegiances, but I tend to live in the middle of the world.
Yeah.
But you do sleep better at night because there's things we don't know. Should they tell us everything? Yes. There is a way to do that.
I'm not going to lie.
They don't.
Half the reason I left my job on broadcast was because my job was to look up news 24/7. And the burden of knowledge just became so entirely much.
Have you ever seen, I know they did it with Barack Obama, and I'm pretty sure they did it with W. And they do a before and after, or they do a timeline of headshots through their presidency.
Oh, yeah. They age like 20, 30 years.
Of the presidency destroys people. Mm-hmm. It destroys you. We've seen it destroy marriages. We've seen it destroy credibility. We've seen it destroy character. We've seen it physically destroy people. Ladies and gentlemen, there are things that we as a public do not know that we will never know, or we may know later on once they decide we're big enough to handle it.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we have people that stand watch on the tower, so the rest of us don't have to.
Yeah.
Now,
that's right.
I'm not saying...
You want me on that wall.
You need me on that wall. I eat breakfast 500 yards from 5,000 Cubans that are trained to kill me. God... You know what?
You can't handle the truth.
Jack, you're a bad motherfucker.
Damn right, son.
And Tom, that was the best Jack impression ever. I loved it. So, but my point in all of this is, I'm not a swallow, the story you're given. I'm a dig for the truth kind of person.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, I'm a
raw data person.
Unless you're going to run. Unless you're going to put yourself in that position to stand on the wall, unless you're ready to do that.
Unless you're willing to do it yourself should the moment come.
You have to accept a certain level of obliviousness.
Absolutely. And
you have to understand you're going to live in some of the bliss.
And there's a prime example of that. Number one, go to dudesandbeer.com/knowledge-vault.
TM.
And that's our knowledge vault, folks. There are tons of unclassified government documents, including the entire JFK dump that came out this last year.
JFK took a dump.
It's all PDFs. You can download them whenever we do Knowledge Vault episodes about like Nikola Tesla. You can like look at the patents. Heroes. You can look at the patents of Nikola Tesla like while we're talking.
Edison
about
was a thief.
He was, but. The concept of conspiracy theory, like you stated. Well, hold on. Nice. One of the things that you just brought up, the fact that there are things that we choose not to know about and that they choose to keep from us for good reason.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have...
Oh, we're going to come back to the good reason in a second.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that for the convenience of moving along.
Trying to move us forward.
Yeah. One of the things that we have in the Knowledge Vault is the Brookings Report from 1952. Check it out. You need to download it. It's a downloadable PDF. But the Brookings Institute.
Me your analyst.
Okay. There's the Brookings Institute is a think tank that the government goes to, made up of people from like Caltech, MIT,
smart people.
Yeah, the smart people, the smart folk, IBM, all that stuff. They're the ones where we get the things like.
I'm just going to throw something out here.
Go ahead.
Lay people are smart too.
Mm-hmm.
These are just educated people.
Absolutely.
There's a difference.
Yeah. Well, the air quote, smart people.
Well, fair enough, but I kind of feel like, okay, here's the thing.
I'm smart, I have no college degree.
Well, there you go. I'm a certified college dropout. So
that's right.
But I
went to school long enough to be a doctor.
I keep my eyes open.
Yeah.
And there's a difference.
Well, and what the Brookings Institute does, they're the ones who do the studies on like how cow flatulence affects radar signals.
There you go.
Things like that. They do like deep, crazy studies. And when
Blue Sky,
when Sputnik happened, all right, it was like
beat us to the punch.
It was like, okay, wait a minute, we got something crazy going on. We need to figure out what would happen with space travel. With going beyond our atmosphere, what would the possibilities be? Let's get the think tank on it. So they went to the Brookings Institute. They wrote the Brookings Report of 1952, and it went into like a myriad of possibilities of space travel and space flight outside of our atmosphere, including things like weather modification. Worldwide communications, instant communications, television, space-based weaponry. And of course, one of the final chapters of this piece was what would happen should we find proof of life or be contacted by somebody from outside our planet. And the finding of the Brookings Report and the smart people was that throughout the history of mankind, when a greater civilization meets a more primitive civilization, the more primitive civilization is just either assimilated or destroyed. and to release this to the public would cause mass panic. So the best thing to do is leave them in oblivion.
But then if you subscribe to the ancient alien theory, there's a third option. And that is the advanced civilization being recognized as a deity.
Sure, absolutely. The question is, at that point, there are other people making the decision for us as to whether or not we get the information.
And then you have that really cryptic quote by Werner von Braun when asked, was it about how we got to the moon? Was that what they asked him about? I don't remember the exact question that was asked him, but it was about certain advancements that we've made. And his quote was, we had help.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yep.
That's on record. That was a real thing that happened.
Yep.
So who helped us? Who did we have help from?
Yeah.
Was it from Nazi science, which, by the way, he was, I believe, a Nazi scientist?
He absolutely was. He was the creator of the V2 rocket.
Werner von Braun was one of our spoils of war.
Him and numerous scientists, they came over in Project Paperclip, also in the Dudes and Beer Knowledge Vault.
Yep. I'm actually familiar with that one.
And, it's wild, but to go into the conspiracy theory realm here, here's my argument.
Hypothesis.
No. This is why I say hypothesis, because number one, that's scientifically correct. It takes a lot of steps between hypothesis and theory.
Superior when you say it, but that's just me.
Partially. But if it's going to take me saying I have a hypothesis here, I have a conspiracy hypothesis, in order for it to sink through your brain that it's not a fucking
conspiracy
theory.
Hypothesis or a hypothesis about a conspiracy?
Either way. The idea is that it gets rid of the mental block of conspiracy theory.
This is my dogma.
Now, here's my defense of the conspiracy theory. Number one,
which theory are we defending?
Just the idea of conspiracy theory, period, the concept, and the belittling of it, the utter destruction of it, and the destruction of the dismissal.
Let's not really even destruction. It's dismissal.
Yeah, it's the utter dismissal. Thank you for the correction, because that's absolutely true.
Somebody's got to watch your back.
I know. And number one, conspiracies exist. We know this. Otherwise, people would not be committed to prison for conspiracy to commit murder.
It is a charge you can be sent to prison for. Conspiracy to commit la-di-da.
The definition is more than one person colluding to an ultimate end.
Like, I don't know, election tampering.
All kinds of stuff.
Just saying. Use the C word.
Theories exist, quite obviously. Otherwise, we would have no science. I just went Gallagher on you.
Wow.
But
here come the watermelons.
Now, the question is, by all practice of the law, the job of a prosecutor is to be a conspiracy theorist, is to weave a story, is to weave a narrative of things that happen.
If you're going after multiple defendants, then yes.
Even one defendant, you're still weaving a narrative,
well,
and that's what
conspiracy, by your own definition, has to involve multiple people in collusion.
Well, that's the legal definition of
then
conspiracy.
That's the one the lawyer has to work with that.
Well, and is there not more than one person colluding to an ultimate end of getting somebody convicted, despite the facts?
Yes and no.
So
it depends on the situation.
To me, it's just the fact of, since those means exist, why would conspiracy theories not exist? And what's funny is, in the JFK dump, a lot of stuff that people have considered conspiracy theory for years, like Operation Northwoods, the numerous assassination attempts on Castro, all kinds of stuff came to light where it's like, nope, that was real. Nope, that happened.
That shit happened.
And I think right now we live in the psychological state, most people do, of cognitive dissonance. Which is...
Define that.
Well, it's the fact that your brain is going to work in 3 levels. It's the instinctive, fight, flight, and then there's the third, freeze. So when you are approached with datum, information, that is opposite of your paradigm in which you live, in which you define your reality. Either one, you're going to be open and you're going to listen. That's flight. We're going to go with it. Cool. Mm-hmm. You're going to fight it and say, no. Despite all facts given to me, no. Doesn't exist. Or your brain just friggin' locks up and you have no idea how to process the information. And I think that as a society is very much the state in which we're living. A lot of people are in the freeze mode right now. They just do not know how to process the things that are going on in the world, man. It's mind-numbing.
Well,
like, I follow the news incessantly. Like, I have RSS feeds on my phone from, like, probably about 60 different news organizations that we post to Dudes and Beer and stuff like that. And, like, the things that are going on are absolutely crazy.
But I submit... Okay, so...
Go ahead.
Speaking of theories, or how about a hypothesis, if you will? One of my hypotheses...
Only if you want to be PC about it.
You know what? Fuck it. I feel like it's a working theory.
All right.
Things, and I say things, the shootings, the killings, the rapings, the abuse of any form, the human trafficking, the drugs, all of this, it's no more or less than it's always been since the beginning of man.
No.
What I feel like the change is we have better coverage.
Yes. My wife makes that argument all the time, is you didn't know what was happening in Poughkeepsie 50 years ago.
No, but you do now.
You do now.
Instant, the second it happens.
Exactly.
So when I get a phone call from someone in my family that says, "Oh my God, can you believe what's going on? Oh, did you hear about the shooting? Did you hear about the bombing? What shooting? What bombing?
Yeah.
Oh, there was a bomb and all these people died and it was this, that, and the third." And I go, wait a minute. Where did this happen? Oh, in a country on the other side of the globe. And then my first reaction to that is, how does that affect you?
Yeah.
How exactly does that affect you?
Yeah.
Well, I feel bad about it, but I really don't guess it does affect me. No, it doesn't. And here's the honest to God truth. I hate to be a slogan whore here, but
do it.
That
is it a slogan I can make money with?
No, it's somebody else's slogan. So
shit.
Here comes a big TM, folks.
God bless, dude.
That think globally, live locally campaign, which I really think is for some organic food of some sort.
Yeah.
But really,
it's like Whole Foods or something.
Kind of the ethos you really want to be. Because here's the honest to God truth. If we all took care of our backyard,
everybody's backyard would be all right.
Everyone's backyard would be all right.
The micro leads to the macro.
One of the ways this was described to me, and it wasn't even about this, but this was like, I had a friend years ago who since passed, who told me one time, he was trying to explain to me how folks up in the Northeast drive. He was from New York, I believe he grew up in Brooklyn. And he's like, you know what, when you drive up there, you know what you do? And I go, what's that? And he pointed from the left side, driver's side quarter panel, around the front of the car to the passenger side quarter panel. He goes, you worry about that much of your car. And I go, okay. And he goes, and the guy behind you, he worries about that much of his car. And then the guy next to you, he worries about that much of his car. And he's like, if everybody watches that much of their car, traffic doesn't stop, traffic doesn't slow down, everybody gets where they need to be.
Yep.
And that's kind of watching your front yard, but it's the same concept.
Yeah.
If we concentrated, because here's the thing, think about
you, man, and the world will take care of itself.
Well, no, it's more than that. It's looking out for your brother in your backyard. Sure. If there's like you and I have both done lots of charity events in our lifetime, and some of them are international charities, and that's great. I'm all about helping out our global neighbors, but you know what? If all of us stopped and turned inward on our own city and looked at the problems and plight that our own individual cities have, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, I'm from Dallas, Texas. We have a homeless problem in Dallas, Texas. Mm. Some people call it a panhandler problem. I call it a homeless problem.
It's a homeless problem.
We have a homeless problem in the city of Dallas.
The homelessness situation is
we have a poverty problem in the city of Dallas. We have a public education crisis in the city of Dallas, Texas.
Yep.
If we stopped for a second and stopped worrying about potholes on Henderson Avenue and stopped worrying about potholes in the M streets and stop for a second and go, you know what? How do we take care of our fellow man? If we did that first, we take care of our people, then we take care of our place, then we take care of our world.
Exactly. And it's the ripple effect. It's the ripple effect. And it's something that I used to teach to kids all the time is, yes, there are starving children in Africa. Short of having a lot of money that you can send or start a fund or something like that, or short of going to Africa, what can you do? Technically not a whole lot. However, there are just as many needy people in your backyard.
There's a soup kitchen in your town.
Even
folks.
your friends. And I'm here to tell you right now, 6 blocks away from where you're sitting, one of the most expensive
Which, by the way,
hotels.
we're in a really nice hotel
One
in
of
downtown
the
Houston.
most expensive hotels in downtown Houston, right up the road by Minute Maid Park, is Tent City.
Yep.
Underneath the freeway. Hundreds and hundreds.
And what do those people need? They need. Some of them need opportunities.
Yep.
Some of them need substance treatment.
Yep.
Some of them need mental health.
Some of
help.
them need resocialization.
Some of them need. Well, I mean, that falls under. I feel like that falls
Mental
under
health.
Now,
Yeah.
you know, my father's a disabled veteran, and I have a huge heart.
That's
for,
the saddest thing is how many of them are veterans.
Well, yeah, and I'm
It's
here
disgusting.
to say. I'm here to say a couple things, you know, about that, so, and then I'm going to leave it alone because I can literally go for hours about this. Historically, the VA medical system has done a really horrible job of taking care of our warriors
Yes.
and our heroes. I realized the other day, I was sitting with my father in an appointment at the VA hospital in Dallas.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'm almost 40 years old, and I figured out that I've been going to that hospital for 35 years.
Wow, man.
I went there when my grandfather went there, and I took my dad there for treatment. I've literally been going to the hospital my entire life. And over 35 years, I've seen a lot of change and a lot of improvements there.
Yeah.
And my father is not a rare case, but a difficult case, where that's to say that he needs to be treated by many disciplines all working in concert, and is not something the VA has historically done well. Now, to the credit of the new guard at the VA, you guys are doing a great job of getting the treatment teams. I'm not quite sure the exact verbiage that you use, but you got the doctors talking and the different specialties talking, and care teams and these doctors who have all, primary care, mental health, epilepsy, all these different specialties see the same patient, and then they all do different things that override each other's orders. Now they're coming together and having conferences about that, and I understand that's an expensive and arduous process, but I feel like the VA, the ideology of the VA has changed to the point where they understand that just is what's going to have to be done.
Well, and the sad thing is just the treatment of vets to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Not
even medical treatment, the way society treats them.
Yeah.
Veterans come back with a
myriad
variety,
of issues.
a myriad of
Myriad
issues.
of issues.
And, the resocialization is one. I mean,
Exactly.
Let's look at that movie that was a couple of years ago about the sniper.
Yeah.
Who, he was home. I didn't see the movie, but I've actually done an event with his wife, with his widow.
Same here.
And he was home for months or a year.
Yeah.
Before he finally called her to tell him he was home. I mean, you want to talk about someone that needed help, someone that needed care, and there's no one watching out for him.
Yeah.
There's no one stopping and going, hey, you were in combat, you had a very hyper stressful MOS. Maybe before we turn you loose, maybe we need to evaluate you for a month before we send you home.
Yeah.
Things like that. And a lot of people, to them, that seems like, oh, that's such an awful thing to do, is to sequester someone in a hospital when all they want to do is go home. Well, you know what? That guy needed help.
Yeah.
And he knew.
Quite obviously.
And he knew he needed help.
Yeah.
But thank God he had the wherewithal and the strength within himself to work through himself. But I will tell you this. I literally went to war with the VA system to get my dad's benefits in place and stuff. And then it dawned on me one day, the reason we have so many homeless veterans is it's such an arduous, bureaucratically fit process.
It's horrifying.
To get our warriors the benefits that they so, earn, deserve. None of those words really cut it.
Yeah.
These people not only gave the time, this period of their lives to service in the country, but they lost their lives in a different way.
Yeah.
These guys and gals are not coming back the same.
No.
They're leaving a piece of themselves on the battlefield that they'll never get back. And they come home to family and loved ones, and all they want to do is be normal again, and they're not. They can't get there on their own.
Yeah.
And we're not watching the ball. We're not watching out for them.
Yep.
And I really point the finger directly at our government for not getting ahead of an issue that they know exists. Mental health services for our veterans.
Yeah.
For our servicemen and women who are leaving service. On the way out the door, we need to look out for you.
It takes it right back to where we were earlier with media and everything else. It's not sexy.
No.
It's not sexy.
No, it's utilitarian.
And unfortunately, the guy who was responsible for quite a bit of the just roundabout circle of what was going on with the VA system was running for president. Good Mr. Sanders. And I loved a lot of his platforms, but that was one of the things that it was like, hey, weren't you supposed to revamp the VA healthcare system and you did nothing? It's worse than it was when you started.
So here's a story. And, sir, I'm sorry if you're mad at me for telling your story, but I won't name names. I have a Marine buddy.
Mm-hmm.
When he left the service, when you leave the service, you're supposed to get an evaluation to determine what care, if any, you require from the VA. He had been out of the service for years. Let's just throw a number out to say 4 because I don't want to skew this because I don't want to out this guy directly. And he had been out for, let's say, 4 years and still had not ever received this exam. He's, I guess, in a waiting line. He does an event with military personnel who are in charge of the VA. And this one particular person, whose rank and name, thank God I don't remember because I don't want to quote him.
Sure.
Said, they got to talking, he realized he was a Marine, and this gentleman that I'm referring to saw combat in the Iraq-Afghanistan conflicts, and he said, Marine, have you received your exam? No, sir, I haven't. Well, how long have you been out?
Yeah.
4 years, sir. Really?
So what?
So he calls over a civilian who is in the VA organization. I don't remember his position. Thank God he doesn't want to call people out. Calls him over and says, you need to get this case file handled.
Yeah.
Well, 12 months later, my Marine buddy's doing this show again. And the same military personnel who, he had talked to before, hey, Marines, you get that exam? No, sir, I haven't heard anything yet. What did you just say to me? Sir, I haven't received that exam yet. Calls the same civilian person over who's in the VA organization, goes, I gave you one thing I wanted you to do, and you couldn't do it.
Why is it not done?
And I kind of feel like that is a summation of the failure of the VA healthcare system.
Well,
all of that, though, I will say this, things are getting better.
They are. And just to bring things full circle as we wrap this episode of Dudes and Beer, thank you so much for being on, DJ.
Absolutely. It's been a long time coming.
Absolutely. Just to bring things full circle, this is one of many reasons that they're wanting to go to automated drones, that they're wanting to go to, robotic warriors, even robots on the battlefield. And something that Stephen and I talked about in the episode the other day was in Dallas, whenever the police shootings happened, God bless, during the protests. There were police there protecting people, and the guys started shooting at the cops.
There were 2 in a year.
Well, it was the
The
guy.
guy that went through downtown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the guy that ended up being, because I remember me and Steven were on the phone with each other. He was like getting off work, and I was like, "Dude, come by the
I
house."
was a mile and a half away
Come,
from that.
come
Yeah.
by. Oh my God, dude, call me when those things happen. Good God, don't ever be in that situation again. But if it does happen, call me. But I was like, come by the house, man. I'm awake. Like, this stuff's crazy on the news right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting there and we're watching it, like, with the door open, smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer. And the guy's, like, surrounded by cops, top and bottom, like, in a stairwell, in a parking garage. How hard would it be to, like, tear gas the guy? You got him surrounded top and bottom, but instead what we do is use a robot claw to come in with a grenade and just kill him. And it's like, I don't know about that. I don't know about the ethics behind that. I don't think that's an ethical takedown. I don't think that's a way by which to A, get the person the help that they need, B, to find out their motivation behind the crime, or C, to actually apprehend a suspect. I mean, he's got a finite amount of ammunition.
That's a hard one to call.
It is.
You know why that's a hard one to call?
Well, because there were 5 cops that were just killed, and how much more loss of life do
Because
you
we
want?
weren't there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Whose command? Somebody had to make a command decision on the spot in the moment, because that guy, he was using combat training, to murder police officers.
Yep.
I mean, one of the things about that is, thank God, when that initially started, I believe that was during a protest march.
Yes, it was.
And thank God he didn't open up on the crowd.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Thank God he did not open up on the crowd, but he chose to go after our police officers. And as many gripes as I might ever have about the DPD, I will say...
Or any PD.
Oh, no. I mean, that's my city. So the DPD...
I lived there, believe me, I know.
And whatever gripes I might have about dumb things that they do, I will say I saw our police department act and react in a very precise and professional manner.
Yeah.
And those ladies and gentlemen did a amazing job at containing that threat to the public. Because honestly, here's the thing: he's turning on cops now. What's to say what would have kept him from
just turning the gun to the right?
Turning the gun,
turning the gun to the right.
Public.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was targeting police officers to start. It could have gone wheels off from there. Lord only knows.
Well, and the thing is, by the time they had him cornered, all civilians were gone.
Oh yeah, we ran.
He was locked down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had him top and bottom in a stairwell.
What was the final move? Was that the right final move?
That's just it. At what point? We already know that in the NDAA, hey, we can bomb an American citizen abroad.
And so, what would a robot have done? Flown around the corner and neutralized the threat.
Yeah.
How's that any different than us driving a grenade laden drone in and doing the same thing?
The question is, could that same drone shoot a tranquilizer, and then we can put the guy through trial?
Could you
and find out what's going on?
So you want to teach a robot ethics, a robot AI ethics?
Well, how about we arm them with something other than a gun?
So then you're going away from the AI controlled robots that we were speaking of, and you're going to something that is more human controlled.
No, it can have the same decision mechanism. It's a robot.
Well, no. Well, you're talking about a less than lethal measure.
Sure.
That's a different line of reasoning, because there's a less of a consequence to be less than lethal. So that's a whole... You're actually limiting the decision-making capabilities because it's always going to be less than lethal.
Well, I'm just like it's a possibility to do it. Like the question is,
And
like
it's
I
a
said,
possibility for us to live in a utopian society.
Absolutely. I don't know. I guess just I refuse to believe that you got like 10 SWAT dudes up top and 10 SWAT dudes down bottom and one guy stuck in the middle of a friggin'...
But were you there?
No, I wasn't
and
there.
I'll be honest.
I wasn't there.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a career contrarian. That should be on my business card.
Absolutely.
So I'm playing devil's advocate.
No,
here.
I devil's advocate all the time.
And
That's
so,
what it's about. That's how you rabbit hole and get into it.
We weren't there.
But we weren't there. We weren't there.
And so, what was the thing? Like, what do we have? Does anybody
Why
have
not
tear
a tear?
gas? Well, here's the thing. Here's a scenario for you. Who's got tear gas? I don't have any
The
tear
entire
gas.
SWAT team.
No. Who's got tear gas? I don't have tear gas. Shit. I got a grenade.
Who's got
okay, here we go. Let's do that.
Who's got a man-killing grenade on him right now?
Is that... You know what, though? Here's the thing. Prove that wasn't the case.
I can't. But good God,
you
why would
refuse
they...
to bereave. Good God, words are hard. You refuse to believe that there was another option. But here's the thing. They had him cornered. They had the opportunity to end it.
Sure.
What did they have on hand? Was that their best option that they had on hand? How do you know?
Dude, they got tear gas
No.
launchers.
They got
son.
tear gas launchers in the station house.
I know.
What if nobody happened to grab one of those when somebody said, "Oh my God,
They
there's an
came in
active
a
shooter"?
SWAT van that's fully equipped.
Prove that.
That's horseshit.
Prove that.
What,
Prove
they
that.
come in their Prius?
Did
they all show up on their own time?
Prove that the SWAT
Was it like
van had
Navy
tear gas.
SEALs where they're
Prove
like chilling
that-
out at where they're like chilling
No.
out at the birthday and
None
it's
of
like,
that.
ooh, I got a page, gotta go.
Actually, that's kind of how it goes. But prove that they had tear gas in the van. I'm just saying, per what those guys had on them at the time when they had him cornered. Oh my God, we got a chance to end this.
Number
what
one,
did they have?
there was a protest going on, so guaranteed there was some fucking friggin' tear gas in the background.
Because not only that was a peaceful protest,
sure it was,
and the officer.
No,
hang on. The officers that were escorting the protest were not SWAT officers.
No, they were not.
That means they would not be equipped with any of those things other than a taser.
However,
a taser and pepper spray.
Any police officer protecting a protest or being on the outside of a protest, something like that, it would definitely be available should things go bad.
No,
much like
you're
shields.
making a wild assumption, sir. Is that DPD policy? No, those guys.
I can't imagine that it wouldn't be in a trunk of a car far off.
No. I watch these guys on the news. These guys were walking down the street in your regular beat patrol officer,
I'm not saying
Sam Brown with their usual
I
gear.
saw that too. But what I'm saying is I guarantee you, like, within eyeshot in the trunk of a police car.
Prove that.
Patrol
officers don't carry tear gas. That's something that somebody's got to bring out.
Yeah.
And when those... And
same thing with riot shields.
You've got to
and
understand
stuff like that.
some of the geography here, too. That happened down, I believe, either Griffin or Lamar Street.
Yeah.
The DPD headquarters is on the south side of Highway 30 on Lamar Street. I used to live across the street in the south side of the Lamar building, Tim. And that is... literally straight down the street. You come under the convention center, pop out right where that protest was happening. Now, was it quicker for them to grab the SWAT van and roll, or was it quicker for a bunch of guys to jump in cars or literally even run down the street? They ran this guy all the way down in the end into what's now the Crown Plaza Hotel. Yeah. He was hiding behind columns and pillars and literally baiting officers into his position so he could pop around the other side of a column and kill them.
Sure.
What did they have on them? Most of these officers, literally, the news footage, because I watched this thing as it happened. The news footage, most of those officers were carrying their issued sidearm.
Yeah.
They were not SWAT officers who were carrying rifles.
I understand that.
And when they cornered him...
I understand that.
A lot of those guys, because the SWAT officers had their what's on their body tag.
Because they brought in the robot. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. If you got time
to bring in the robot,
to call in the robot,
why couldn't it have?
You got time to bring in a freaking freaking tear gas grenade.
Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure. I seem to remember this being debated on the local news in Dallas, and I honestly cannot remember exactly the circumstance. Right. I feel that one of those options was exercised, and he just kept shooting. And it got to the point where
granted, he was military trained, and they all do have to go into a friggin' room about the size of this with the tear gas grenade.
And as any military operator will tell you, I got a good talking to one night about this from a gentleman who was in the service, is that when you go into the battlefield, you come in fully loaded. Yeah. Your day gets easier as it goes because as you expend your ammunition and your expendables, your gear gets lighter.
Yeah.
How much ammunition does this guy have on him? How much ammunition can a warrior carry? A lot.
Yeah. Well, they carry a 60-pound back to begin with.
When they're not carrying food and water or toiletries.
Yeah. Provisions.
And they're just going in and
provisions and necessities.
And I'm going to submit to you that this guy probably knew he was not going to survive this. Yeah. He wasn't in anything for the long haul.
I don't think he had
everything he was carrying was expendables. What was ammunition? Yeah. He dumped all his other gear, carried nothing but ammunition into the fight, into what he considered the fight, because what he felt he was doing was righteous.
Yep.
Well,
and that's just it. Like, unfortunately, just to loop things back around, closing things out. What the media thinks they're doing is righteous. What science thinks it's doing is righteous. And at what point does truth with a capital T come into play over righteousness?
We as a society have to demand it.
Exactly. We as a people have to demand it. And when I say people, I don't mean like as a society. We as individuals have to demand the fact that we look for truth with a capital T, not truth with a bias, not truth with an opinion, not truth with a decoration, but unadulterated truth. And DJ, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Absolutely.
It's been great. On that note, everybody, please, while you're online listening to this episode, go check out the Dudes and Beer website, dudesandbeer.com. We've got some great stuff there. We've got the all-new Jump into Conclusions blog where we literally just jump to conclusions. The idea is to take a topic and just rabbit hole with it. We also have the Dads and Beer podcast. We also have the Thinking Deeply part of the podcast where we take things like this and just really crack into it. And we're looking at having quite a few professional correspondents in different areas. So once again, DJ, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
It was great. Until next time, folks, remember, if you can't be good at it. Check us out on the HC Universal Network. And bye-bye.
Later.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams or chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for Android and iDevices, available on Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Breach.tv, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more about our sponsors and other podcasts on this network, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.